Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by Gameday Tailgate Experience. Elevate your tailgate when the Steelers travel to Jacksonville on November 18th to take on the Jaguars. More information is available at steelcityunderground.com/Jaguars tailgate. We'll give you a promo code for a 20% off savings for the event tickets for that tailgate as well toward the middle of this show. My name is Joe Kuzma, and this is going to be an exciting day today on the Steel City Underground podcast. We have a special guest, but first, once again, welcome my usual co-pilot, Brian E. Roach. How's it going, Brian?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I gotta love that. Fred Rogers just exemplifies Pittsburgh, right? The whole Pittsburgh
That's why I
culture.
used that quote, man.
I love it. But you know what? I'm going to go with something else because, I was thinking about the movie The Hangover just recently, and I mentioned we have a guest host, and he's going to tentatively here, this is the plans, to be a regular segment here. I was thinking of The Hangover, and I'm like, hey, the wolf pack just grew by one.
There you go.
Yes. So, introducing a segment we're going to be doing. This is kind of like the introduction to it, and then we're going to be talking with one Trey Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers, cornerback, appropriately named Trey's Corner. Going to be around a lot here in the near future. Trey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's a beautiful day. I'm blessed to be here.
Man, is it a beautiful day in the neighborhood? Come on, you got to go with the theme here.
Yeah, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood, man. It's
So,
always a beautiful day when you're out in the neighborhood.
that is. That's true, man. That's true. We were just talking offline. You were like, how you doing? And I was like, if I complained, no one would care. Brian doesn't listen to me when I complain, ever.
I can't help it. You make me.
Yeah, I know. I kind of force you into that. So, hey, Trey, just we talked with you, I think sometime maybe around the NFL draft or shortly thereafter. You were one of our guests for an interview here on the show. But let's catch up with some of our listeners. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a kid. I was born in Charleston, South Carolina. My dad was in the military, in the Navy, actually. So I moved around a lot, but I ended up in Tampa, Florida, which is where I pretty much grew up since I think we got down here when I was in third grade. So third grade on, I've been in Tampa. Ended up going to college at Villanova. So I actually ended up spending 5 years there in Philly, going to University of Villanova. So I got to experience the whole basketball national championship thing and everything like that. That was a great time. And then after that, I came back home to Tampa. I started doing some training for did pro day, and then now I'm up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds awesome. Of course, you play as I know, I think we asked this of you before. Maybe they had you labeled as a defensive back, but you're a corner, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I played corner. But in college, I played corner and safety, so that's probably where the confusion comes in.
Yeah, whenever you look at some of these things online, and particularly, when you're at I know it's still Division I, but it's like the FCS, it's like the information.
Yeah, D1AA.
Yeah, I love calling it 1AA. I still can't get away from that. The FCS thing is just confusing to me. My alma mater was an FCS school as well, if you recall, Youngstown State, and I still kind of follow them here or there. Former Nebraska coach is their head coach with Bo Pelini, but they're not having too hot of a season this year. And I believe I was even out at Villanova when I was like 10 or 11 years old for a game as well. So I'm certainly familiar with the area that's out there. For those who aren't familiar with where Villanova is, outside the Philadelphia area, basically. So, Trey got to deal with a lot of what do you want to say, fanatics out there, and now he gets to deal with Pittsburgh Steelers fans. But tell us a little bit about the draft process. We know that you were undrafted, but then signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, the draft process was actually kind of a lot of fun. It's kind of, if I could relate it to anything, I would relate it to kind of being recruited when I was coming out of high school. You talk to scouts pretty much. Not really every day, but, they call you. You get these random numbers pop up on your phone. And you don't know who it is. I got whatever state they're calling from, they pop up, and then you talk to them, whatever they say, oh, we're looking at you, just do this, do that, getting your contact information and different things like that, make sure they have a right number to call you on draft day. And then that's really it from that standpoint. And then when it comes to the draft, for me, since I didn't go to the combine, my pro day was something very important. So, that's when I actually talked to the Steelers for the first time. It was at my pro day. He was one of the scouts was actually at the finish line when I ran my 40. And that was when I kind of talked to him for the first time. And I actually didn't talk to the Steelers ever since that day. That was like the last conversation I had with them. And then, on draft day, I'm waiting for my name to be called or whatever. And then obviously it wasn't called, but around late 7th round when the Steelers actually still had one more pick left, Coach Bradley called me and was saying that we were thinking about picking you up as a preferred free agent. And I talked to my agent, talked to my family, and everybody about that. And we ended up going with the Steelers to be the team that I wanted to go to. So that was an extremely exciting moment in my life. Obviously I wasn't too happy that I didn't get drafted. That's every athlete's dream, to be able to have your name called or whatever, your name go across the screen. But I still feel like I arrived in some type of way. Obviously not fully, but I got my foot in the door. Now it's time to just get my whole body in the door.
Yeah, it's got to be a nerve-wracking process. I can't even imagine it myself. It's just, 3 days of nerves. I'm sure you got some idea of, first day is the first round. There's the guys that are all in the big colleges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even if you're in like a bigger D1 college, you're still like, if you're like a MAC school kind of guy, I don't know that you're always going to get your name called. I mean, Carson Wentz obviously is a, exception to that rule coming from like North Dakota, but
yeah, he's a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, definitely. That doesn't happen too often, but yeah. So you were talking to the Steelers at the finish line doing your 40, but did they even see you run your 40? Because if they blinked, they might have missed you. I know you're a really fast guy.
Yeah, actually, that was the conversation we had. I actually ran it, and he on my way back, he was like on the way back to the starting line, and he kind of stopped me. And he was like, "Did you know you're gonna run that fast?" And I was just kind of like, yeah, like I did. Nobody else just kind of knew that I would. And then he just kind of, laughed it off and then shook his head. And then I just kept it going. And then that was really the conversation I had with them. But, it was a lot of other scouts there. Villanova actually did a great job of, getting a lot of scouts there. Our NFL liaison, Coach Ola, who was actually also the DB coach, he did a great job, talking to different scouts. We had, I don't want to say all 32 teams there, but it was close to all 32 teams, and they all, seemed interested in, not just me, but everybody that was kind of at the pro day, because we had a lot of good kids come out.
Cool. So, you get through all that and you get signed as an unrestricted or undrafted free agent, and you go to minicamp. So what was rookie minicamp like, and then transition that beyond that, now after minicamp, when you're just there with all the rookies and you go to OTAs and now you're there with everybody, how were those experiences?
To me, I feel like rookie minicamp was a lot like training camp or like fall camp in college. It's everything is just jam packed into this like 10-hour window. You got 2 practices, it's 2 a days. Your body's going to be extremely fatigued, extremely tired, and you're just getting overloaded with information. Every meeting you're learning something new. You never really get to go over the practice before, and the only time you get to go over the practice before is after you've already learned something new. So it's kind of hard to implement, it's kind of hard to correct yourself when you're trying to learn something new. So that was kind of the gist of rookie minicamp. But, it kind of changes a lot when it came to OTAs, because when OTAs came around, obviously all the veterans show up. So you don't really get as many reps. It's more so you don't get to learn by doing. You have to learn by watching and learn from other people's mistakes. So that's really the difference between rookie minicamp and OTAs. OTAs is more so watching somebody else make a mistake and learning from it, whereas rookie minicamp is you make the mistake and you can't make it again, because if you make it again, somebody else is going to come in there and end up taking your spot. Yeah,
we've seen that actually the last few years. I believe, I'm trying to think, was it even like the quarterbacks that are like, they kind of say like the fourth guy, camp arm or whatever to work out with people. You've even seen those guys kind of transition in or out based on how well they do during that period of time. And then you see some guys that come out of the not even signed. Like I was just talking about Youngstown State, Damone Patterson was a guy that wasn't signed like yourself, and everybody knows that name, and they're probably thinking, they're like, well, I don't remember Trey Johnson. Tell us what happened, because I know I was talking to you a little bit about this. Unfortunately, Trey didn't get to training camp because of an injury that was discovered.
Yeah. I got hurt during the third practice of rookie minicamp. Was like the first time it popped out. I was actually guarding James Washington on the deep route. We just kind of got tangled up. They threw the ball. I was in phase with him, had my hand on him. And when I looked back for the ball, we kind of started hand fighting or whatever. And when he slapped my arm down, I felt like a pop. And then, we both went up for the ball or whatever, came down. And when I came down on it, it just felt weird. It felt out of place, So I ran to the sideline or whatever. I talked to the trainers, talked to Norwig. He popped it back into place for me. And then I went back out there and finished practice and finished rookie minicamp. And then after rookie minicamp and OTAs, like after that period, you get like I think it was like maybe 2 weeks where I got to go home or something like that. And then I was at home, doing rehab, trying to get the shoulder back stronger or whatever. And then I came back for training camp. And before training camp, you have to do like a physical, obviously, to get cleared. And during that physical, they realized that, my shoulder was still loose and it still didn't feel that stable. So I got an MRI, and then that's when they figured out, that I needed surgery, and that, I had actually the bone that holds your shoulder into socket. I actually lost 20% of that bone, so that's why my shoulder kept slipping out.
Oh, geez.
just from wear and tear. So they took some bone and replaced that, put a screw in there, and then now I'm all fixed up.
Yeah, and just even talking about that, going up against somebody like James Washington, I know a lot of it's like football and shorts and stuff like that, but just tell us a little bit about, not only your teammates in the secondary, but some of the teammates. We're going to be talking about some of this, of course, into the near future and as we preview some games, but not only that, but the guys you're guarding on the other side of the ball. I'm not sure how much time you got, but did you get some time with maybe against some of the starters, or even someone like Juju or someone like that?
You don't, as a rookie, you really don't get to face them as much. I faced AB one time. Thankfully, he didn't get the ball, but yeah, he ran a quick little curl route on me. But it was just kind of just something different. You realize that these guys are really elite. Just kind of speaking on the secondary, just being able to watch the way that Joe Hayden and RDB and these elite cornerbacks kind of go through practice and the way that they treat practice. You can tell that they're the constant professional. The way that they handle drills, that everything's full speed, everything is just straight locked in 110%. And each player has something different about them. That you have to kind of take that trait from them and kind of apply it to yourself. Like RDB, man. RDB is the ultimate competitor, like literally in everything. Like we'll be warming up and he's out there competing, and I'm just like, yo, like you have to realize that and try and implement it into your game, because that's how you stay in the NFL. You have to see the people that have been there for a while, learn from them, and then implement it to your life, and hopefully I'm the one that's going to end up being in there for a while, and it's just a cycle.
Okay, yeah. So you said you had surgery, and things went well. They did what they needed to do. Overall, your rehab is going well, and you anticipate, I guess, by the time we have to wait, I guess, until the season ends, and then when it starts up next season. But you anticipate being full go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. By with the recovery time from start to finish is a whole 6 months. I'm going on to week 12 on Monday. Will be the 3-month period, so that's the halfway point. But rehab is going great. I'm in there every day. Right now we're there's different phases to kind of getting the rehab done. Right now I'm in the first phase going on into the second. I'm towards trying to get my range of motion right. I got pretty much, I'd say like 90% of my range of motion back. I just need to get, the last 10%. And then once I get that, we just work on strengthening within that range of motion. So, I'm really excited about it and just, kind of working towards getting it back to 110%. But, yeah, unfortunately, I really won't be back for this season. But, when hopefully I get cleared around January, February. And then once that happens, I just kind of have to start the whole process over. I'm going to have to go back to rookie minicamp, go back to OTAs and just kind of reprove myself. And, my biggest thing personally is just to make sure that I come back better than what I was, because, in this game, every year is about elevating your game and evolving, so if I go back and I'm the same Trey, I won't be able to make it, I'll end up getting cut because I didn't evolve. So I have to make sure that I come back better than what I was.
Yeah, and you know what? I was going to clarify for some of our listeners that may not be familiar. They're probably saying, well, Trey's hurt, so what exactly is his status right now? Trey was placed on injured reserve. Was it during camp or technically maybe toward the end of camp or whenever you had the injury? But still part of the Steelers roster, just one of the exceptions for injured reserve. And then, of course, you come back stronger, better, what is that? The $6 million man, bigger, faster, stronger. We'll build him better. Then you're probably looking at something like a future reserves contract. But I think you're in a good position. Yeah, I think you're really coming from us and not blowing smoke up your butt, obviously. But for the Steelers to place someone like yourself, an undrafted rookie on injured reserve means that they probably like you, so you're in good hands there. But can you tell us a little bit? This is something that I wasn't very familiar with, and I think some people they see like Ryan Shazier out there. Now he's on injured reserve, but he's almost like a coach. He's traveling with the team. Yeah. He's full contact, but that's not like typical of most guys on injured reserve. You're mostly focused just on rehab, and you have contact with the team here or there, right?
Yeah. The way that injury, obviously Ryan Shazier's situation is completely different. He was pretty much a team captain, and his injury was horrific, and he's still, around the team often because, he is Ryan Shazier. He's the vocal point of our defense. But, when it comes to, a normal person like me on injury reserve, we talk to the team, every once in a while. Like I said earlier, I was able to go to the Steelers Bucks game when they came down here to Tampa. But I'm actually in Tampa doing my rehab. I'm back at a facility that I trained at for Pro Day called ASPI. That's where I'm doing my rehab. So, the way that injury reserve is set up is you go back to the facilities. For me it's every 3-4 weeks. So pretty much once a month I go back up there and get like a checkup. So I go see Dr. Bradley. He checks my range of motion, checks my strength. Different things like that has to do with my surgery. And then we go right back down here to Tampa, and I just kind of go back into rehab. And pretty much the simplest way to look at injury reserve is pretty much like workers' comp. You got hurt on the job, so you go home and you rehab yourself, and you come back whenever you're ready.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it for anyone who's been in that same type of position. And, obviously the Steelers could have bypassed the whole injured reserve thing. We actually saw that with Damone Patterson, and now, ironically, he's in Tampa. So me and Damone we connected during rookie minicamps and OTAs. So it was funny that you brought him up. Damone was somebody that we all saw early in the process that he was a special talent, but obviously the whole world didn't see it because you guys aren't there, during OTAs and rookie minicamp. But Damone's a baller, I think he's gonna make it in the league. Yeah, it's it is surprising too, because I wouldn't say, everything that was thrown his way in college, he pretty much caught, but it wasn't like Youngstown State had this like West Coast offense or pass, happy offense. They were very grounded.
They were a run first team. Yeah,
definitely. They were, and with more than one back, and even with the running back, run the option and things of that nature. Yeah, so I mean, in Patterson's case, he was waived with an injury designation, so he was not placed on injured reserve by the Steelers. So just giving you some insight to Trey's situation here, where he actually is still part of the roster as an exemption. So as part of that, And as you join us, hopefully each week as we get together for some pregame breakdowns. We don't have a game we didn't have a game this past weekend. So now we're going to be looking ahead. You'll be joining us. We'll be talking about the Browns game coming up later in the week. But maybe some impressions so far of the team, of how the Steelers have done over the last 6 weeks. Obviously, I guess the best way to maybe frame this is maybe, like, I always try and tell people that at least our impression of the beginning of the regular season now is almost still kind of like preseason for a lot of the starters. It's almost like preseason's the evaluation period for guys who are trying to make the team, rookies who are trying to get acclimated. Then you got to get all those pieces going with the veterans. Is that kind of something you see too, where you got to smooth out the process as you go week 1, week 2, week 3, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, this team's looking a little bit better now?
Yeah, it's definitely something like that. It in life, it's just really getting better every day. And in football's case, it's really every week. It's not something that happens overnight. Week 1, we had to tie with the Browns, which was obviously not our best game, but each week we really improve. People are starting to come together. Chemistry is starting to get right. It's especially when you have to look at our defense in a standpoint. We have a first-year defensive backs coach, so obviously the whole entire coaching staff hasn't been together for multiple years. So, you can't just – they're not all on the same page immediately. It's something that has to work over time. Time is the only thing that can make things better. So, I definitely think that, throughout these weeks, the team has gotten a lot better, and that's obviously shown by the winning record that we're starting to have now. And especially I had a lot of fun watching this past game this week with the Bengals and the Steelers. That was a great little rivalry game. And, it came down to that's something that shows that the team is getting better, because in crunch time moments like that, the game is pretty much tied up, it's duked out, really the team that has the ball last is the team that's going to win. So, that those kind of games is what really shows you the character of your team.
The one thing we noticed, obviously, when you look at the first 6 games of the season so far, there's definitely the defense has had its struggles up until the last couple games. When you watch the game on TV, do you see things that would lead you to draw some conclusions about what's going on?
I guess you could say that. When I watch the game, I try and put myself out there in a selfish sense. I guess you could say, whenever I see the defense line up, I try and guess what play it was that Coach Butts called or whatever it is that the defense is in. So that's kind of where I draw my conclusions from, of like what's happening. But, you could just kind of see the communication and everything like that kind of growing throughout the past weeks. The way that, everybody's out there communicating. You can see Vinny, pointing out different things in the offense now. You see everybody just kind of gelling and coming together and kind of realizing plays before they happen. And that's really the important part to success. You have to see things before it happens, because if you see it while it's happening, it's too late.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, but this may actually come as a surprise to you as a player, but I'm almost doing the same thing that you are, putting myself in the same situation, probably more from a coaching or coordinator aspect. Brian could attest to this, sitting with me a few weeks ago himself. I have binoculars with me, and it's not like I'm that far from the field or anything like that. I'm in the lower level. We were sitting in the club for the one game, and I have binoculars, and I'm out there. I'm looking in the huddle. I'm trying to find out, how many tight ends are in the huddle, how many backs are in the huddle, how many receivers are in the huddle, trying to figure out. I'm watching guys as they're subbing on defense, coming on and off the field. I'm always tuned into that, because I think a lot of people just assume this is like the Madden video game where guys don't play 100% of the game. Very rare. I mean,
absolutely not.
Joe Hayden does. Sean Davis usually does. Terrell Edmonds has been, because Morgan Burnett's been hurt. But definitely, sub packages play. You could probably answer this best. How do sub packages in depth kind of factor into, that cohesiveness as well? Because we were talking about, there's veterans, but, Cam Hayward's going to come off the field sometimes. Maybe Tyson Alualu subs in or something of that nature with the linebackers and even some of the secondary guys.
Yeah, you actually kind of hit it on the head. When you're on the sideline, you're looking for the personnel and the personnel cards. Usually there's a coach holding up the personnel cards. In our situation is Coach TC Terry Cousins. He's holding up the personnel. So if it's 11 personnel, a certain package goes out there. If it's 12 personnel, another package goes out there. Depending on what the offense puts out there is what the defense is going to obviously have to respond and replicate. So when it comes to that, obviously, somebody like Cam might have to come off the field in order for somebody like Mike to come in, somebody to come in the nickel or the dime or whatever it may be. And just with that, you kind of have to find that focal leader in the middle that kind of doesn't come off the field, which is somebody more usually like a linebacker or like a safety, like you kind of mentioned SD, or somebody like Vinny, who's just kind of always going to be out there on the field. And that's really more so the person that you look to in order for leadership when it comes to like calling out, strong right or strong left or whatever when it has to come with the offense. So that's really the more so the intricacies of the defense, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it really is like a chess match. And, as you're mentioning the personnel with the numbers, look that up, folks, if you're not familiar with 11 personnel, 12 personnel, however that may be, the specific terminology there. I won't get into that right now, but
it's not too complicated. The way I look at it is the first number is running back, second number is the receivers.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the one that I'm kind of interested in too. Is just kind of you have some substitutions. Maybe someone blows an assignment or something, for example, and you got we're going to pull Trey right off the bench, and you got to come in almost kind of cold. How difficult is that, or is it something where you're almost mentally into each snap, each rep, and you're prepared as soon as you walk on the field?
It's more so something that you try and be prepared mentally every single time. Obviously it's not something that you prefer, coming off the bench and being cold and not being warmed up. But, that's up to you as a player, as to do that during warm-ups, to make sure that your body's ready and your legs are warmed up to be able to go out there. But, when I was in college, my coach actually used, because I got hurt in college too, my sophomore year actually. And, I learned a lot that year. And one thing that I learned about was mental reps. My coach used to say it to me almost to the point that it was like a nuisance. Every play he'd be like, Trey, mental reps. And I'm just like, dude, like, shut up and just leave me alone. But, it actually paid off, because, when you're not on the field, you still have to be on the sideline taking a mental rep, kind of like how I mentioned, when I'm watching the game, I'm still taking mental reps. I'm still mentally, I'm on the field mentally, but obviously physically I'm not out there. So that's really just the standpoint that you have to take, so that when somebody messes up or when your name is called, you're ready to go out there. You don't need that adjustment period, because during that adjustment period, you're in the NFL. These are professionals. They're gonna point you out and be like, okay, this is this kid's first play out here. We're gonna try him. Let's throw a bomb to his side of the field. So you got to make sure when you go out there, you're ready, because once you go out there, they're going to try you, and that's 110%.
Yeah, that never happens. They're never looking at the picking on the new guy. No way.
Yeah. They don't notice who's on the field.
Yeah. Once that happens, you're getting bombed, and you better be ready for it.
So, you talked about watching Joe Hayden in OTAs and so forth, and one of the things that we've noticed is that the one game Joe was out, he was hurt. Was obviously the Kansas City game. We looked like we had a lot of communication issues in that game. But when Joe's in, because we talk a lot about communication and how it looks from the standpoint of when you're watching the game, but it's not just one level of communication, right? And how much difference does it make when you've got that veteran guy in there to help settle things down?
It changes a lot, because it's, on one standpoint, you got a guy who's, I think Joe's going into like his 9th or 10th year in the league, so he's pretty much seen it all, when it comes, whether it was with the Steelers or with the Browns, he's really seen everything, versus, a guy like Cam or Cody Sensabaugh, who was, they're veterans, but, they don't have as many plays under their belt, so they haven't seen as much, and they're still kind of learning the system. So that's just really the two opposite spectrums of it. So when you have that veteran mindset and that veteran mentality, he sees things before they happen. So, he's able to communicate that to somebody like Terrell, who's a rookie out there, so he can be like, okay, they're about to run this screen. And if he tells that to Terrell, now Terrell knows that they're going to run the screen. So, now everybody's on the same page. And that's really all defense is just trying to get all three levels of the defense on the same page. And once everybody's on the same page, even if it's the wrong page, if you're on the same page, you're going to be successful. So that's really all that matters. Everybody has the same mindset and is working as one together.
Yeah, and you know what? On that, speaking of mindset, that's something I wanted to ask, because not only I talked about blowing assignment, making a mistake, something of that nature, and not just with anyone with the Steelers. And of course, I'm not going to name names and put you on the spot, because we would never do such a thing. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we see it around the NFL. We even saw it the Packers and the 49ers in the primetime game, and there's a flag here, or a guy gets beat, or something gets missed, or somebody gets benched, or any of these number of things. Just how much of just even playing, I gotta say, man, the DBs may have the hardest jobs, outside of the guys not laying on the quarterback now, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's fluke.
How much? Yeah, I don't trust. Hey, we were talking about this. Brian has a hashtag next to his name that says "the refs stink." But how much of it really is mental? Because we've seen it happen where it seems like a guy may have a string of bad luck, week to week or a couple weeks in a row. We were talking. I spoke with Jeff Reed, a former kicker, last week, and he was talking about it in the kicking game. But I think this really applies to a lot of different positions, including yours.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up kickers about their mental aspect, because, the way that I see it, football is about 90% mental, and then the other 10% is just, the God-given physical abilities that you have. But, with the kicking game, I feel like that thing is 95, 99% mental, because you can see kickers, that when they're hitting, they're on it, and then, once they miss that one, they kind of start slipping. And I feel like that's a lot of a mental aspect. But, when it comes to the secondary and the DB position, the way that I try and look at it is I relate the DB position as you got to be like a spaceship. Spaceships really don't have rearview mirrors, so they can never look back. They can't see what happened in the past. They just kind of go out into the atmosphere and they do what they do. And that's kind of the mentality that you have to take when you're in the secondary. You're gonna get beat. You're playing at the elite level. Sometimes somebody's just gonna be better than you. On that play. And you can't really just sit there and think about it over and over, because if you sit there and think about it over and over, it's going to happen again, because you're sitting there thinking about it. So you just got to be able to move on and just kind of keep it moving, and when it happens, week to week, you just got to keep working and just keep, figuring out what it is that you're doing wrong, because, if you keep getting beat, there's something that you're doing wrong. So you got to figure out that thing, whatever that thing is, and then, fix it and correct it.
Yeah, and that's part of the draft process, too, is you said 90% mental. That's why they ask you guys all the questions that they do and throw everything in the kitchen sink to make sure your mind's in it. Yeah.
So many questions, man. I had people contacting, my second grade teacher asking me what kind of student I was. And I'm like, dude, I'm not in third grade anymore. What? But, that's just research that they're doing, that they have to do in order to realize the type of man and the type of person that you are.
Oh, I was a disruptive second or third grader. They would have never wanted to ask those questions. It would not have worked out well. But
I 110% believe that it wasn't the Steelers who asked my second grade teacher. It was probably one of the other teams, because if they asked her, she probably didn't give too good a feedback on Trey Johnson.
That's something else, man. Well, hey, Trey, thanks for joining us today for what's going to be now known henceforth going forward as Trey's Corner.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thank you guys for even having me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to really this segment every week, and just kind of letting the people know about Trey, the type of person that I am. And I'm definitely blessed to be in this position.
Definitely. And we'll be previewing the Cleveland Browns. We'll have some of our other variety shows, as I like to call them, in the middle of the week as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to you too, Brian.
It's always a pleasure. Trey was a fantastic introduction. I can't wait to get more insight and learn a couple things. Even though I'm old and I know everything. By the way, that's the status quo. I'm always right. Just like
I hear you, man.
It does not ever work that way. Brian's dreaming. He's living in a fantasy world. So just to tie up a few loose ends and some business stuff, I said we'd have a promo code for the big Jacksonville Tailgate event that's going on. And if you folks want to head on over to Steel City Underground SteelCityUnderground.com/Jaguars Tailgate. You need the .com in there. It's not going to work. This is the full all-you-can-eat open bar. It's like almost 5 hours long. I have now been told that the special guest will be Isaac Redman for the Steelers side of this. So very cool. Head on over to the website and use the promo code Steel City when you check out for 20% off. We also have a contest with Shinesty, and that's going to be running through the weekend. That'll end after the Browns game, actually. So make sure you're looking for the hashtag for the Steelers Shinesty giveaway. We've got that going on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can enter on all of those. You could go to SteelCityUnderground.com/Shinesty for more details. It's this really cool like sport jacket, Trey. You got to see it. It's like black and gold and striped. Looks like a Steelers version of Beetlejuice. So we're giving one of those away with our partner Shinesty. So once again, Trey, thanks. Brian, thank you. And my name is Joe Kuzma. And until next time, folks, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. Be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.